Broad-based government, grand coalition government, government of national unity. That is what is expected in the country called Kenya at any time. But the question is, will this return Kenya to normalcy? Will this kill the Gen Z revolution? Well, for starters, a vast majority of Kenyans are very much against such an arrangement. For the simple reason, it is not the solution. Kenyans will not be rid of the problem. Because when you have a problem, you're supposed to address the problem directly. And incidentally, creating positions for politicians, looking for big offices for politicians. By the way, the words of President Ruto when he was deputy president, not my words. By doing that, you will not be solving the problem. Indeed, most Kenyans are puzzled and wondering, what are these opposition politicians thinking? Being so eager, scrambling for positions in the cabinet, what are they thinking? Has it crossed their minds that they're ending their political careers? But by far the biggest concern is simply, what happened to Raila Odinga? What happened to this legend? This patriotic Kenyan who has done so much for the country? What happened to him? Still others have identified a pattern of Raila Odinga finding a way to join government. And they've started from the days of KANU, the sunset years of the much hated Moi's KANU party. Although admittedly, another political party in recent times has overtaken KANU and gone down in history as the most hated. I'm of course talking about the UDA party, the current part of the ruling coalition, UDA party. Anyway, in the 90s, Raila Odinga's NDP merged with KANU, or rather was swallowed by KANU, and members of his party got cabinet slots in Moi's government. And then there was 2007, the Kibaki government that Kenyans fought so hard to remove in the 2007 elections. Raila ended up joining that government in the grand coalition arrangement. And then again in 2017, there was the handshake. Raila allies did not join government, but obviously, Raila enjoyed some benefits from government and clout, which by the way at the time caused the then Deputy President William Samuel Ruto to go berserk. And then there's the present, 2024. The Ruto government is staggering and clearly on its way out. And it would seem that once again, Raila Odinga is rushing to the rescue to save the Ruto regime. Kenyans are livid. And indeed, other Kenyans are associating, without any evidence, monetary gain for Raila in all these arrangements. If truth be told, Raila Odinga has lost many supporters over the last few days, and some of them have come out publicly and declared that they have withdrawn their support. I'm talking about people like controversial lawyer Donald Kipkorir. Right, let us break this down. And let us start with Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, it is a truism in politics that the time a politician chooses to exit the stage is critical to their legacy. And we have seen this over and over and over again. If a popular politician, a legend even, stays on the stage too long, then there's always the real danger of completely destroying and dismantling their hard-won legacy. But if we are to put our emotions aside just for a second, it is also true to say that life has been terribly unfair to Raila Amolo Odinga. Because you see, he's supposed to be a respected retired president by now, because he was the real winner of the 2007 presidential elections. Which means, assuming re-election, his term should have ended in 2017. But stolen election after stolen election, Raila Odinga has remained in play, and always in a very prominent position. And therefore, looking at this coldly, something was bound to go wrong somewhere down the road. And it would seem that finally that has happened. Because having followed the career of this politician for decades, I can confidently say Raila has never been here before. Raila has never faced what he is facing right now. And in my opinion, I don't think he can come back from this one, which is very sad. But then that's life. And the main problem, if we can summarize it without kizungu mingi, is as follows. You cannot join the most hated regime in the entire history of the Republic of Kenya and survive. Not even if you're Raila Odinga. And to make matters worse, this situation is extremely messy. Because the move by Raila and the ODM party also seems to have split the Azimio coalition. Yeah, because we now have two very clear factions of the ones very united against all odds. Azimio. I don't think it is true that major ODM politicians have pressurized Raila so that they can get cabinet slots. I don't think that is true. I believe it has happened the other way around, that Raila is forcing cooperation with the Ruto regime. And leading lights within ODM have quickly positioned themselves to take advantage of cabinet slots. And indeed we are told that Ruto has offered 7 cabinet slots to the ODM party. And in my assessment, I don't think even a co-presidency of Ruto and Raila at this juncture will work. I don't think that is enough to cool political temperatures in the country. I believe it is finally dawning on many analysts that the only way to cool down these temperatures is for Ruto to leave office, for Ruto to go. And not only Ruto, the entire Ruto regime, and that would include Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. That is the only thing that will cool down political temperatures, cool down the masses in Kenya at the moment, and nothing less. But it is also true that Kenyans are realists, and they realize that it is not in the character of Ruto to allow that to happen, which sets the stage for a political crisis in Kenya, the most serious by far in our history, that will not go away anytime soon. But on the bright side, a political crisis that looks like it will completely clean the system, drain the swamp, give us a brand new, unrecognizable Kenya. However, naturally, the problem is, before we arrive there, what must we go through? That is the fear amongst most of us. You see, the very important thing that most people have missed is that although this thing started as a Gen Z-led revolution, it has evolved and involved virtually all Kenyans right across the board, even older Kenyans. And sadly, one of the biggest obstacles amid all this is the fact that Ruto seems to still believe that this is an ordinary political crisis that has a solution with him still in power. Indeed, he has still failed to recognize his biggest enemy, his biggest obstacle by far, and that is the hungry Kenyan. That hungry Kenyan cannot be appeased by identifying leaders, a few leaders, even if there are as many as 100, and fattening them, and hoping that it will trickle down to the masses and quieten the hungry, starving Kenyans. And so, carefully taking all these facts into consideration, a government of national unity, a broad-based government, whatever you want to call it, a grand coalition government, will not solve the crisis in Kenya right now. If anything, it may cause this crisis to get worse. You know, unfortunately, I think some people are trying to look back in history at what has happened before, and they now believe that President Ruto can remain in power and Kenya at some point goes back to normalcy. Let me break that down. In the run-up to independence, the main catalyst of Kenya's independence were the gallant Mau Mau freedom fighters. It is the Mau Mau who brought the mighty colonial government to its knees and dragged it to the negotiation table. Exactly what the Gen Z revolution has done. But then, surprise, surprise, the Mau Mau were not on the negotiation table. The people who ended up there were the moderates. You will have heard that Kenya's independence was stolen by the home guards. Those are the people collaborating and working with the colonialists, who stole it from the real freedom fighters, the Mau Mau. And this was again repeated in the aborted second liberation of Kenya. The real fighters, Kenneth Matiba, Charles Rubia, Gitobu Imanyara, Koigi Wamwere, Raila Odinga, etc., etc. Where did they end up? Some of them, like Raila Odinga, at the periphery of power. Others out in the cold. Real power went to the moderates, like Mwai Kibaki and his allies. Fast forward to 2024. Who are the characters being called to the dialogue table? Same old, same old. And in their thinking, it will work once again. Because the truth is, even the faction of Azimio that does not want dialogue is same old, same old. And what Kenya clearly needs right now is a brand new start. It should be clear that the mood on the ground is that Kenyans do not want a dialogue. because we have had dialogue before, and we have seen the results of that dialogue. Nothing in Kenya has changed. This time round, Kenyans are determined to get change. Granted, that is not going to be a walk in the park. That is not easy. It may not even appear to be practical. But the hungry, long-suffering Kenyans, who have been patient for decades, want nothing less. And it is at this point that the prophecy from 2017 starts to make a lot of sense. Overturn, 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 until that whose right it is comes. Real change shall come to Kenya. But it shall not come when Kenyans expect it, and it shall not come how Kenyans expect it. That prophecy now makes a lot of sense. But I have to admit, it is scary. Because, have you ever tried to uproot a mugumo tree? Those huge, humongous baobab trees? How do you uproot such an old tree, with its roots so deep into the ground? How do you even begin to do that? But that is what Kenyans want. That is the only thing that will solve the Kenyan crisis. A quick reminder before I go, we are still in that season for support for yours truly, Kumekucha Chris. You can see details on your screens right now, repeated in the description area below this video on YouTube, and also in the comments area. Thank you so much for your support, without which I would not be where I am today, fulfilling what I believe is my purpose. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.